Welcome back to my channel. Bing! Carly was on her cell phone. She missed it.
Did you even start it?
I did. It started.
I can't see the countdown.
It already counted down.
Oh.
So we're starting our new unit on right triangle trig. So we're on, well, I covered up my page number. We're on 105. And if you go to that page, you can see that there's two different sections to this unit. So the first part is right triangle trig, and then the second part is this thing called the unit circle. So what we're focusing on first is right triangle trig, and it's something that you covered last year, but Cheyenne was just saying that she thought it was maybe during COVID, so we'll see how this goes. It should be a review, but if it's not, then we'll just do the best we can. I'm trying to get my other screen up, but it is not happy with me. Okay, so we're going to talk about trigonometric functions today. But all of these trigonometric functions are based off of a right triangle. So we need to review, make sure we feel really good about what a right triangle is. So we're starting at the top of page 106. So right triangle will be a triangle that usually has a little square in the corner of one of the angles. Does that make sense? Or I guess I should say one of the angles has a square in it. And this little square means that that angle is 90 degrees. And it's always 90 degrees. So we cannot do anything that we're doing today unless we have right triangles. Then after we get our right triangle, we focus what we're doing on an angle of interest. Sometimes it's also called the focus angle. So we have a right triangle, meaning one of the angles is a 90-degree angle. And we are going to describe this triangle based off of a focus angle. So in this case, our focus angle is right here on the bottom left, and its name is theta. So I'm going to highlight that. This guy is your focus angle. His name is theta. He's like a fancy O. He's like a fancy O. I'll zoom out and draw one for you. You start, you go down and around and then do a little loop. Or some people just do an O with a line through it. Whichever one you prefer. So we usually will name our focus angle theta. Okay, let me zoom back in. So now we're going to talk about this triangle in terms of theta, and we're going to talk about its sides in relation to where they are regarding theta. So the hypotenuse of your triangle is the longest side. The hypotenuse is always the longest side, and it's opposite or across from the right angle. So it's labeled here. When it says that it's opposite from it, it literally means that it's on the opposite side. So right here where it says opposite the right angle, it literally means if you look across the triangle to the opposite side, that's always your hypotenuse. The side that we call the opposite side, so this one has the name H. The hypotenuse always has the name H. the opposite side has the name O, and it is opposite to angle theta, or opposite of angle theta. So this time, theta is here, opposite of theta, I guess I can use this, would be O. So we have the letter H, we have the letter O. So the last one is the adjacent side, and for me personally, it's the hardest side to identify. The adjacent side is the leg of, so it's one of the legs of angle theta. It's one of the legs of angle theta. So angle theta has two legs. One of the legs is the hypotenuse, and that's the easiest side to find. The other leg is your adjacent side. So this guy is capital A. I find him last because I think he's the hardest one to find. So when we're talking about right triangle trig, these labels of opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent are based off of your specific theta. We use the letters O, H, and A. Then the last thing before I have you practice these guys is that I personally find it easiest to identify them in this order. The hypotenuse is the easiest, then the opposite, then the adjacent. So let's look at A together, and I'll have you try a couple on your own. So for me, the hypotenuse is the easiest. So I find the right angle, and then I go across from that right angle. So this guy is your hypotenuse. So then the opposite side is based off of theta. And this marking right here in your triangle, that's indicating to you that that is theta. So this angle that's marked is theta. So the opposite, O, is across from him. And now that we have those two, we can see that this short side, this very short side, is adjacent. And he is one of the legs of theta. For this next triangle, though, it's going to be slightly different because the triangle's positioned differently. So for me, easiest is always hypotenuse. So I find the right angle, I go across. Then opposite is the easiest. It's called the next easiest. It's called opposite because it's across or opposite of the angle that's marked. So this guy is O, which means this time the bottom of your fraction, the bottom of your triangle is A. Okay, you try C and D. If you're already done, just hang tight for a second. I'm going to do a walkthrough and try to get this. No. Get cruising, you're doing C and D. Let's go 10. 5. Okay, so for C, I guess I should just label it for you rather than describe it. So the shortest side is A, the longest side is H. And then on the last one, the bottom is H, the right-hand side is O, the left-hand side is adjacent. You're hanging in? Okay, so the biggest takeaway from this top part is that figuring out which side is opposite and which side is adjacent depends entirely on the angle of focus. So you have to make sure that you're really clear on what angle they are wanting you to look at. So these are the exact same triangle, exactly the same. The only difference is that the angle of interest is different, or the focus angle is different. So if your focus angle is A, then it shows you how you would label this triangle. The opposite would be the left side, and the bottom would be adjacent to A. However, if your focus angle was B, then those change. Your opposite side becomes the bottom, and your adjacent side is the left. In both cases, hypotenuse is always the same. Hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. But it's these two legs that change based off of what angle is your focus. So to see if that's making sense, let's try number 2. So it says, given a focus angle, find the side. So the first one says opposite of R. So I go to R, that's my right triangle. Across from it is side V, which is also our hypotenuse. So you guys try B, C, D, E. So the first one wants to know what is the opposite of S. So you go to angle S, you go to the side opposite S. Let's go roughly 30. About 10. Okay, opposite of S is T. Opposite of Q is U. Adjacent to Q, well, it's one of these legs. It's either V or T. V is the hypotenuse, so it has to be T. Adjacent to S, same reasoning. It's either V or U. The hypotenuse is V, so it has to be U. You're feeling okay about that? Okay, so this is the basis for our right triangle trig, because remember, the whole point of this is to be able to find what is called trig ratios. So that is on our next page. We have this triangle at the top. Let's split this. Split this big space that you have in half, because we're going to do some notes here and then some notes here. Okay, the three basic trigonometric functions are sine, S-I-N-E, sine, cosine, C-O-S-I-N-E, and then a completely different one, tangent. So sine, cosine, tangent. These three functions are often written as SOHCAHTOA. So that's this phrase right here, SOHCAHTOA. S-O-H, so. C-A-H, caca. TOA, T-O-A, TOA. SOHCAHTOA. So what exactly do these letters mean? Well, the first one is sine. So right here, we're going to write down what these mean. Sine is equal to, well, on the previous page, we called O opposite. So that must mean H is hypotenuse. So it's the ratio or the fraction O over H. So they'll ask you to find the sine of a given angle, and what you would do is then put the opposite of that angle over the hypotenuse of that angle. So ca would be C, which is cosine, equals the ratio adjacent over hypotenuse. And you can just write the letters if you prefer. If they ask you to find the tangent, that's TOA, you do the opposite over the adjacent. So right triangle trig, the most basic part is these trig ratios. The trig function tells you what ratio you're finding. So if they say find the sine, that's their way of saying put the opposite over the hypotenuse. If they say find the cosine, that's the same as saying put the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Is that making a little bit of sense? Is that a yes? You guys looking bored because you already know this? Okay, just checking. Okay, so let's actually look at some specific values. Let's name this triangle. Do I want to do that? No, I don't. This is where you need your notebook. Or a piece of scratch paper if you don't have your notebook. We'll see how we feel after this. So I'm just going to find the next blank page in my notebook and make an example for us. What's today? March 18th. I'm going to draw a basic right triangle. Did I say 19th? I meant 18th if I said 19th. Here's your triangle. Name the right angle, capital A. Name the top angle, B. Name the right, literally direction, the right side, C. So across from A, the hypotenuse is 40. Across from C, that's 32. Across from B would be 24. And then at the top, I'm just going to write out my SOHCAHTOA because that's what we're going to use. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. So if I asked you to find the sine of angle B, I write it like sin B. We don't say sin though, we say sine. So I'm telling you to find the sine of angle B. So they're saying look at angle B and put its opposite side over its hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm going to go to B. I'm going to point to it because that's easiest for me. Its opposite side is 24. Its hypotenuse is 40. And this hypotenuse, you guys could label if you wanted to, because this hypotenuse does not change. So this is H, no matter what angle they have you look at. The hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. Okay, they might want to know cosine B. So cosine B tells me they want me to look at angle B and put the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is my easiest, that would be 40. Adjacent, well, if this one is H, then that one has to be adjacent, so 32. Or you can label the triangle OAH and then erase it when you do the next problem. Then lastly, if they ask you to find the tangent of B, so same angle, this time they want you to put opposite over adjacent. Well, opposite is 24. I already figured that one out. It's 24. And adjacent from the last problem I know is 32. So those are my trig ratios. But there's one last important thing to do. Do you guys have an idea what that might be? We got to simplify. So for me personally, Desmos is the easiest way to simplify. If you go to Math Tools, choose the scientific calculator. I would type in 24/40 and hit enter. And if you notice, it gives me a decimal, which is not what I need. I need it as a fraction. So all you have to do is hit this little button here that looks like a fraction. So sine of B was really 3/5. Once you simplify it, it's 3/5. Then I can do the same for cosine. So 32/40. That's 4/5. Then for tangent, that's 3/4. How are you doing? Are you hanging in? Was that a yes? Okay, so I'm going to have you now find these functions for angle C, and I'm just going to call on you guys to answer them. So if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to want to move next to a neighbor that does. Because all y'all gonna answer one of these by the time we're done. So you are finding same triangle. Oh, sorry, distance learners. Same triangle, but this time you're finding the SOHCAHTOA of angle C. So your focus angle this time is angle C. Better get out the sticks. It's been a while. Oh, where's Hugo? Let's go like a minute. Roughly 30. Do you need more than 30? Do you? Okay, we need slightly more than 30. About 20. $10. 5, 4. 3, 2. Okay, sign of C goes to diamond.
You want like this?
Yeah, this one. 4/5. Correct. Cosine C goes to Bailey. 3/5. Correct. Tan C goes to Elia. 4/3. Correct. Si bueno. You're good on these ones? For sure? Okay, you do not have to write these next ones down, because I'm only going to have you find one angle. So have your Desmos there, but I'm only going to have you do like tangent of one angle, so you don't need to write it down probably. Okay, here's our triangle. It's not awesome. 21, 35, 28. It does simplify, so make sure you plug it into Desmos. Let's find the cosine. Oh, I gotta name it. Let's find cosine C. So for this triangle, you're finding cosine C. You can write it down if that'll help, but I'm not expecting you to write it down. And I'm just gonna call on one of you guys. Roughly 30. 10. Okay, this one goes to Juan. 4/3. Do you guys agree? Yes, no? Hello? Cosine of C would be 21/35. So that's 3/7. 3/5. 3/5. Okay, cool. Next up, this guy. Tangent of A. Shucks. Roughly 10. Five. Okay, this one goes to Britain. 8/15. Yes? Excellent. Next one. Sine of Y. About 10. Five. Okay, this one goes to Raul. Seven over 25. Yep. Okay. Cosine of Z. Roughly 10. Five. Okay, this one goes to Poe. 15/17. Yes, no? 8/17. Cosine Z is adjacent 8 over opposite 15. So 8/15.
Wait, no. It's adjacent over hypotenuse.
8/17.
And then you can't simplify it.
And then you can't simplify. So 8/17. Ah! Okay, next one. Tangent X. About 5. 3. This one goes to Anisha. Carly, do you know it? 4/3.